invite you to come in when I'm ready. Okay, hitting record. Welcome to the Gut Health Turnaround Series, 21 Ways to Heal Your Gut, Reclaim Your Energy, and Look and Feel Amazing. My name is Leah Kline, Health and Wholeness Coach, and I will be your host today. I am being joined by Professor Alex Volinsky, PhD. A little information and background on him. In 2012, Professor Alex Volinsky, PhD, passed ropeworms during a water fast. Ropeworms are anaerobic, elongated, mucus-like structures formed of cells. Dr. Gubarov from Russia claimed that the ropeworms are human parasites, and in 2013, Professor Volinsky and Dr. Gubarov wrote 2 papers describing the ropeworms. Thousands of people say they are suffering from ropeworms, including those with Lyme disease, autism, and Morgellons. Okay, I'll get that right. Multiple symptoms disappear when ropeworms leave the human body. Despite several DNA tests, it is not clear what ropeworms are. Professor Volinsky wants to know what ropeworms are by sequencing the whole genome of the ropeworms at a top genomic lab in the U.S. And now to go ahead and get started with a kind of overall question, how important do you feel that gut health is to the overall health of the body?
That's where most of the diseases actually start. They start in the human gut, and so what you're doing is very important. It's the main waste pipe that we have, and that's where most of the processes are happening, good and bad.
Yeah, it's the beginning for everything going out of the body. Yes. And how did you become interested in gut health and ropeworms? Were you interested in that at all before the incident where you passed some?
Actually, no. I did not have any background in this area. What happened is I used a Hulda Clark zapper that I just wanted to experiment, and as a result of that, I got very, very sick. Going into the sauna with the zapper and not following the instructions of how to properly use it, I just did not believe that it is possible to have this kind of effects. Anyway, as a result, I got really sick. I got bronchitis, and then my body stopped eating. It was not my mind, because nobody in their right mind would stop eating, but that's what happened to me. My body just stopped eating food, and during the 5th day of fasting, I was only drinking water. I passed a stream of mucus that was about over a feet long, and since then, I've been interested to find out what exactly this thing was. So members of my family are medical doctors, and they looked at that. They said it doesn't look like a Ascaris worm or any kind of parasite. So I posted pictures of this on Russian fasting forums, where I got most of the information about fasting. And one of the people in that forum said that this is a new parasite that's not known to the medical science. And of course I did not believe that. But then he sent me Dr. Gubarov's book about this, and the pictures depict exactly the same thing. So since then I've contacted the author, and he kind of researched this area on his own, and I told him that this needs to be published in proper literature. So we wrote a paper, and I tried to submit it to a medical journal, and the medical journal, the editor did not send it out for review, saying that there's no there's no scientific proof that this is in fact a parasite. So since then, I've learned what those methods would be to prove or disprove, or just kind of do research to find out what this species is. And it definitely has cellular structure. If you look under the microscope, you can see the cells. The cells were stained by Doppy, which brings out the nucleus of the cell under the confocal microscope. We've done electron microscopy, and we've also done DNA testing. So out of those latest DNA tests that were done at the Cancer Research Center and also in China, they showed that 10% of the DNA belonged to humans and bacteria, and 90% has no match. But there was probably less than 1% of the whole genome sequenced. So the way I see this is if we do the full genome test, then it would answer the question of what the ropeworms are. But the medical community knows about it. They call it lymphoid aggregates or mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue. In certain circumstances, they can turn into polyps. They can be either attached or not attached. But I was not able to find much information about the molecular studies of this thing. And what people assume is that if something is present in the human body, it belongs there. So it is quite possible that ropeworms are parasite. It is also possible that this is some sort of drainage of the lymphatic system, which drains into the intestines, and that's where it stands.
Okay, so so it's in kind of layman's terms, it's just kind of a bunch of cells that are in your gut that are kind of put together, obviously, and you think it's a parasite, but you don't have all the ducks in a row to know exactly what it is. Pretty much. Okay.
Right. It's actually a system. They can be different size. One thing that people report that whenever they start to do any kind of cleansing or oxidative therapy, they see the ropeworms pass and they have a lot of symptoms relieved almost instantaneously. The other interesting phenomenon is once you start to do the cleansing of the gut through some sort of enema procedures, many people report that they have migration of this ropeworms to the throat and to the nose area, and I've personally experienced that as well.
Okay, so when you refer to them being anaerobic, I assume that means that they don't live in an oxygen environment.
Right. They pretty much dry once they are out of the human body. They dry up very fast. So it's a challenging thing to even photograph these features because they turn into this crust in a matter of hours actually, and it's hard to photograph something when it's floating in water.
Distortion. Yeah.
Right. But so what happened is after the journal did not accept the paper, I published it on the internet, and since then I've been contacted by several hundred people that reported ropeworms, and majority of people say that we're suffering from this. There are also other three groups of people, parents of autistic children. And you have to realize that I was not aware of this situation pretty much all over the world. I thought it's something, if it is a parasite, I thought that I got this in Russia, and then the book came from Russia of Gubarev and his research, so I was thinking that this is associated with that part of the world, where in fact it's pretty much all over, because I've been contacted by people.
But is there any information on, that has been figured out on how people have, developed this at all, or we're saying it's all over?
Right. The way I see this as a scientist is that it has to be established what the ropeworms are before any further research is done. It's not okay for the medical professionals to say it's a nuisance or it does not exist, because this is an objective, repeatable phenomenon that happens in this material world. For example, my daughter passed the ropeworms twice without any medication or any kind of treatment. She had pain in her belly, and then she went to the bathroom, and that was the only thing that came. It is definitely not feces. It is a very peculiar, interesting matter. It's alive, or it is combined of cells that have DNA in them, and I would assume that an extensive DNA test would show, if they were human, then it would show a large percentage of the DNA to be human. and that was
Yeah.
not the case so far. Now, of course, we only sequenced a portion of the genome, not the whole genome. So that's why I'm trying to do this test. And by no means I'm an expert in this area. I've also learned by experience that to do this, the sample needs to be clean. I personally have done fasting. I fasted 9 times, anywhere from 7 days to 17 days, just drinking water. And that reduces the contamination significantly. Philosophically, I looked at the ropeworms as a trash bag. And you know what happens if you don't take the trash out of your house? It starts to stink. There might be a mechanism for us to dump this trash, but if not, there are certain procedures that Dr. Gubarev patented in Russia on how to get rid of them. And it's for some people it's unacceptable, for some it is. Pretty much anybody who does cleansing, including enemas, they eventually see this. Also, people that do oxidative therapy using ozone, hydrogen peroxide, chlorine dioxide, or hyperbaric chamber, they see this as well. And I believe that this phenomenon needs to be studied using the proper method, starting from molecular biology and from molecular studies all the way up. So there are a lot of speculations at this point. Everybody has a theory of what's the cycle, but I think the first step would be to prove and show by DNA analysis what this feature or matter or living organism, what this is.
Yeah.
Right.
So you know exactly what you're dealing with.
Right.
How would somebody know if they were infected or if infected is even the right word? We don't even know.
We don't even know. According to Dr. Gubarev, all humanity is infected. Now, of course, to have a claim like this, there has to be some proof to that. I don't know. I mean, at this point, I don't really want to speculate. The fact that I've written those papers, which claims it's a parasite, is an interesting story, because I thought I'm just this close to have the proof, to have the scientific proof, and it turned out to be a complicated subject. So
Yeah.
people are asking, how come CDC or NIH, how come they're not funding this research? And my response to that is no researcher can do research without proper financial support. So they have to write a grant of some sort to study that. And I have written grants to, they're not really funding agencies, but rather foundations that are interested in health. And it hasn't been successful. But I think the first step is to show to the scientific community that this thing exists, that is not a matter of an imagination, that those people that pass it, they don't have delusional parasitosis. It's an objective thing that can be studied. It's a phenomenon that can be studied. And whatever you find in the human body does not necessarily mean that it belongs there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a little hard to give money when you go, well, I'm not entirely sure what this is.
Exactly.
They're going, okay. They're probably not paying a whole lot of attention at that point, unfortunately.
But at the same time, I want to warn people because people are very impressionable. I pretty much stopped any kind of cleansing procedures. The only thing I do now on the regular basis is water fasting. And I can tell you from personal experience that if you want to fight something, there is always a pushback. If you start a war, you're going to get a war. So my stage at this point is peace. If they are pathogenic, which they might be, because many of the symptoms are released once they pass, that are associated with mood swings and certain chronic pains, they just disappear. But again, going back to the analogy of a trash bag, if you don't take trash out of your house, you're going to have infestation and you're going to have a lot of problems. So this could be the body's adaptation mechanism. I wish we were able to identify it and say with high percentage certainty of what this thing is. And for that, I would expect it to see a large percentage of human DNA. And we only have seen so far 10% human and bacteria combined. And these are pathogenic bacteria if you talk to medical professionals. There's Shigella, Salmonella, E. coli. Think about it this way. If there's E. coli bacteria roaming around in the human body, that's not a good situation. So maybe the body provides a home to this microorganisms which are part of our microbiome by giving them this sac. I mean, there are many theories at this point, but I just can't say for sure.
And the next question I wanted to ask you, obviously we've kind of talked about this in passing, but was what do you recommend doing to get rid of them?
Well, I'm not a medical doctor, so I cannot give medical advice.
What you've done in your experience, yeah.
And again, that's another thing. Dr. Gubarev identified certain development stages of this. There are different methods that he patented to do that. And he made his discovery by accident. He also had bronchitis and or some lung-related problem, and he went to the sauna in Finland, where there was eucalyptus vapor. So he breathed that, and the next day he was cured from his bronchitis. That's how he made an invention of the eucalyptus broth enema. So there are certain procedures that are available. Some people are not comfortable with doing enemas, but I don't really see any problem with that. People do colonics these days. There's a colonics clinic in California where they see a lot of this features pretty much in anybody who goes onto that procedure. Having said that, there has to be some balance. I believe in balance and I believe in peace. And that's what's important. So even though there could be some pathogenic bacteria, if the microbiome is in balance, which the term for that is homeostasis, then you're not sick. If one of the creatures start to overgrow, then the disease comes. So that brings a question about the gut health is eating cooked food and eating meat products and things of that nature. It feeds certain types of bacteria that is capable of, I wouldn't say digesting, but processing the food that we eat. And most of those processes are associated with rotting. It's rotting of that stuff that we eat. That's why the fishes smell bad. If anybody tries to become raw vegan, at least for a short period of time, they don't get the smell. The body odor disappears. Their feces don't smell as bad. It's just different. It's different type of digestion, where most of the digestion on the regular diet happens in the stomach, and you need a lot of acid for that. Whereas if you're eating raw fruits and vegetables, they don't stay in the stomach for too long. They primarily stay longer in the intestines, and that's where they're mostly digested, and that's how it works.
Yeah, since the meats, proteins are digested in the stomach and the carbohydrates are digested further down, that makes sense. And how can our listeners help with the sequencing of the whole genome of the ropeworm?
Right. I have there's a YouTube channel. It's YouTube/user/Funis Vermis, FUNISVERMIS, and there are videos related to this subject. There are several videos of ropeworms moving in water, which is also an interesting phenomenon. There is a Facebook support group which is called Ropeworm. So if you just type in Facebook Ropeworm, it's a closed group, but people can join. There's about 1,500 members there, and there's also a There's also a fundraiser run through UCaring. The full genome at the top U.S. Genomics lab is close to $30,000 with data analysis. So that's my plan, is once there's enough funding collected. And by the way, people donated about $5,000 so far. So I thank everybody for that. And what I say is that instead of those people that are interested, instead of buying their coffee, they can donate whatever they can to the project to show their support, just morally, because there's a lot of resistance from different sides to have this happen, and I think that we need to use the scientific method and the scientific approach to study this properly. I'm not the right person to do it because of my background, but I can make sure that the sample is not contaminated, and I know the lab that is willing to take the money and sequence the whole thing using the state-of-the-art equipment. And the analysis of the genome it's cheaper to assemble the genome in China. It's just but the equipment for sequencing, it's all the technology comes from the United States. So it's actually cheaper to do it in the United States. And I try to explain to people that I'm trying to do a multi-million-dollar project for $30,000. So hopefully the results would be conclusive, because it's going to be the whole thing. The problem, in a sense, is that DNA test is a comparative test. So there's not as much data in the database of DNA sequences. And it's possible that many of the sequences are not going to match anything, which is fine, but we do have the human genome. We do have a lot of bacterial genomes, so I believe that there's a way to sort this all out. Although it's going to be terabytes of data.
It's hard for us to imagine, but there is so much of the world around us, and even parts of our human body, that we just have
no idea what's going on. Yes.
So we're still learning. We're still learning in the process, and we will obviously put a link for your fundraiser below the video and stuff, so anybody can contribute to that wants to. We've also will put a link to the Facebook stuff and the YouTube thing. So
thank you, appreciate that.
And check that out. And anyway, thank you so much for joining me today, and thanks for everybody who's listening.